Hey, welcome to Large Family Management. Today I am cooking freezer lasagnas. This recipe does 6 pans of lasagna. Normally I will eat 2 of those for dinner and I'll put 4 in the freezer, but today, wonder of wonders, I'm putting all 6 in the freezer because I've also been making chili. That's in another video. So today I'll be making 6, which will be 3 dinners for us. I'm gonna get started by putting the meat in a big pot to start browning. The recipe that I use is from another YouTuber called the Daily Connoisseur. I'll link it in the description below. I've used her recipe now for 2 or 3 years. I'm not exactly sure how long, but it's a really good one. It works really well. It's very tasty. The kids love it. So her recipe actually calls for 6 pounds of ground beef and 2 pounds of Italian sausage. Today I'm actually going to be using venison. My 14-year-old son Rob shot his first deer this year, and I'm only using 3 pounds though. The recipe has a lot of meat, so I'm just going to use 3 pounds of ground beef and 2 pounds of Italian sausage. So I'm going to go ahead and get that browning on the stove, and then I'm going to chop my onions and add those in. So okay, so that's the 3 pounds of venison, and then have 2 pounds of the sausage. And then I have one of those choppers, you know, like the meat chopper thing. I'm not sure what it's called. This it works. This is it. I got it off of Amazon. It actually works really well for getting all of the meat kind of, you know, mashed up a little bit. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'm going to go over and chop up the onion. Okay, that's a good start. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get my onions chopped. I'm using my chopper again because I just used it for chili, so why not go ahead and use it for this too. So I got this off of Amazon. It was about $15. It's a really, really good, useful tool for large family moms. I use this when I have several onions to chop. If I'm just doing one, I just do it with my knife. But if I have multiple to do, I pull this out. It makes such quick work of it. These are bigger onions. For these, I'm going to quarter it instead of just putting it in half, because if I just have it, it's not going to be, the screen is too small, so I need to quarter it. They're pretty big, so I'm having to position them carefully. This is such a huge time saver though. So I'm going to dump what's in the, I don't know what it's called, the hopper, maybe, and then do the rest. I'm going to go ahead and chop the meat up a little bit more because I want it to be super fine. After I do this, I'm going to go ahead and mix up the ricotta filling. And once all of my meat is brown, I'm going to go ahead and add in the spaghetti sauce. I bought one of the large institutional size cans of spaghetti sauce, and then I'll just doctor it up with a few extra seasonings. The good thing about this recipe is it really does come together pretty quickly, and it's really not much more work than making one lasagna or however many lasagnas your family eats per meal, but then you have it, you know, for 2 or 3 more meals. Or if your family only uses 1 pan of lasagna, then you have 6 of them, that sounds kind of amazing. Okay, so I'm just going to let this keep browning over here, and I'm going to get together the ricotta ingredients and we'll get started on that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix up the ricotta filling now. So I have this big 5-pound bag of mozzarella cheese from Restaurant Depot. So I need to weigh this out because the recipe calls for 35 ounces. So I'm going to use my scale. Okay, so that's 35 ounces. I use this whole thing of ricotta. It's the big one from Costco. And let's see, 12 ounces of Parmesan. Okay, I have 2 partially used Parmesan cheeses. It's close to 12 ounces, so I'm just going to dump both of them in. Close is good enough for me. 2 eggs, and then salt and pepper. Teddy, hand me the garlic powder, the onion powder, and the parsley powder too. I like to add a few extra things. just to make the ricotta filling a little bit more tasty. So Hosanna, I don't know if you can see her back here, she's taking care of the meat for me. She wanted to help. Okay, and pepper. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and put some onion powder in too, some garlic powder. If I had to guess, I'd say this is probably about a tablespoon of each, maybe a little bit more, but I don't know. Nobody's ever complained to me that my food tastes too oniony or too garlicky, so. And then I'm gonna measure out about 2 tablespoons of this. Okay, now comes the fun part. I use my hands to mix it up. I'm gonna go ahead and break up the egg yolk, and then break up the Parmesan chunks, and then just go for it. This ends up being a pretty dry mixture. You'll see this when I'm assembling the lasagnas. It's not really that easy to just to kind of spread it. So I use my hands and I kind of just drop it on top of the sauce, but you'll see what I'm talking about once I'm assembling everything. So I'm gonna get it off my hands and then I'll wash my hands and we will be back. Okay, if you're gonna be opening industrial size cans, you need an industrial size can opener. I got mine at Restaurant Depot, but they also have them on Amazon, so I'll link that below in case you don't have one near you. It makes it so much easier. I opened the industrial size cans for years with just a regular size can opener. And I mean, it can be done, but it's hard. It's not fun. So this makes quick work of it. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add the sauce to the pot now and then add the extra spices. Okay, I bought these huge containers at Restaurant Depot when each one of these was on sale. This was the oregano and this is the basil. I think I got this for like $9. So I'm almost out. It's taken me a year and a half, but I'm almost out now. So I'm just gonna do about a handful of oregano and a handful of the basil. So that's about 1/4 of a cup. And then I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of sugar. Now I also need to add 2 small cans of diced tomatoes and 1 larger can of crushed tomatoes. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of the tomatoes now. Okay, now I'm gonna stir it all up and I'm gonna let it simmer just for a few minutes. I don't really have a whole lot of, I don't have the time to let it simmer for like an hour or 2, but it'll be fine. Okay, we'll let that simmer for about 5 minutes and then we will reconvene and get these things assembled. So these lasagna noodles are a lifesaver. I get these at Restaurant Depot and it's a whole case of pre-cooked lasagna sheets. Okay, so let me just show you what they look like. These are still frozen, which is fine. So I'm just gonna peel the backing off of these and use these, and it's just so much nicer than having to wrestle with individual noodles. So I'm gonna ladle some sauce into each pan, and I have 6 of these here. One of my sons is dancing in the background. Would you like to do it for the camera? I'm gonna take that as a no. Okay, so I'm going to just spread it out. Oh, now Teddy joined him. It's a dance off. It's a dance off and YouTube will never see it. Okay, so I'm just spreading the sauce out. Now I'm gonna put 1 noodle sheet on top of each one. Hosanna. Boom, thank you. Okay, and I'm just gonna press it down. Like I said, these are still mostly frozen, so, but the heat from the sauce helps make them more pliable. Okay, so I'm just gonna press these down. Whoop, that one broke, which is okay. Okay, now I'm gonna do another ladle of sauce on top of each noodle, and And then after that, we'll put the ricotta cheese mixture. Woo! And I do a very generous ladle. Okay, then I'm just gonna spread it. Okay, at this point it gets a little bit messier because I do use my hands to break off chunks of the ricotta. And I just kind of try to break it apart and drop it, spreading it out, but this is too thick really to be able to like smooth it out. So I just do the best that I can with my hands. Hosanna, could you grab me a few paper towels, please?
Paper towel. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And you know, as this is heated in the oven, the cheese will melt and it'll spread out better. But while it's cold, you just have to do the best you can. If you have a problem using your hands to help you cook, this probably is not the recipe for you. Between mixing it all together and then getting the cheese spread on the lasagnas, it does. You have to get your hands messy. This is just sticking together more than it normally does. I'm not sure why. Maybe because I didn't measure my Parmesan cheese. It may have a little bit more in it than it normally does. Okay, that's good enough. Let me just rinse my hands and then I'll wipe them off and we'll start building the next layer. Okay, let's build the next layer now. We're going to do another layer of noodles. Thank you. And just press
You're
these down.
welcome.
I need to try to remember next time to take my noodles out a few hours before I start because that helps to soften them up a little bit more. Okay, now we'll do another layer of sauce, or another ladle of sauce, I should say. Okay, spread it out. Okay, back to the cheese. This is going to be my last layer of cheese, so I'm going to try and get this distributed evenly. So, moral of the story, measure your Parmesan cheese, don't eyeball it, because it being this thick is definitely making it harder than it normally is to get it spread out. So, like I was saying, this recipe comes from Jennifer L. Scott over at the Daily Connoisseur, and Jennifer has authored 3 different books. I think at least one of them was a New York Times bestseller. But they're really, really excellent books. I've bought copies of all 3 of them. The first one is Lessons from Madame Chic. Jennifer spent a year over in France as an exchange student. She chronicles the lessons that she learned from her host family about style, and it's just a really good book. It's fun. Then the second book, I can't remember if the second one is Polish Your Poise or At Home with Madame Chic, but Polish Your Poise is about, you know, how to develop poise in your life and have more confidence and knowing how to carry yourself in different situations. It's a really fantastic read. And then At Home with Madame Chic is basically the lessons that she learned from her host family about keeping the home and making it beautiful and just a really lovely place to be. So all 3 of those books are really, really excellent, and I would really recommend that you check them out if you haven't already seen them, because they're wonderful. Okay, come on. This is like the stickiest, the stickiest glop that I've had. I don't feel like I have a lot of poise right now. Even though this is Jennifer's recipe, but you know what? I don't think that Jennifer used her hands when she was doing this part, so. Okay, let me clean my hands again, and I'll be right back. Okay, we are going to end this with 1 more noodle layer and then a generous helping of sauce on top of the whole thing. Here you. I really appreciate your dramatic flair as you throw those in the trash.
Thank you.
Hosanna's my mini me. We don't look anything alike, but we have the same personality. She looks just like her daddy. Okay. So I'm going to start with 1 ladle of sauce for each one, and then I'll go back because I think there's going to be a little bit more than 1 ladle per tray. At least I hope that that's what there is. Now I'm just going to spread this out. Now normally the recipe calls for you to put a sprinkle of Parmesan cheese on top of the lasagna before you freeze it. But as you saw, I just used all of my Parmesan cheese. So I'm going to freeze it without it. And I will probably just end up putting a sprinkle of mozzarella cheese on it right before I put it in the oven, or even, 10 minutes before I'm ready to serve it. I like to improvise. It's what I do. So these lasagnas, if you're cooking it from frozen, like I most often do because I don't think to take it out of the freezer ahead of time, then basically I'll put it on 400 and stick the whole thing in, and come back and check it in an hour. And usually it needs more time than that. But if you are a more prepared chef than me and your lasagna is already thawed out, then you can go ahead and put it in at 350 for about an hour and 15 minutes. That seems to be the sweet spot. And then, take the lid off and brown the cheese or whatever, however you like to cook your own lasagnas. Everybody has their own way. So now I'm going to cover my lasagnas with these metal lids. I get these again at Restaurant Depot. I'll see if Amazon has these, because these really make freezer cooking a lot easier for me. It makes it so that everything stacks so much better than if you were to just use foil. So I really like using these. They're a little bit, they're more expensive than using regular foil. So if you're on a tight budget, then it's probably not worth it for you. But if you do have a little bit of extra wiggle room in your budget, then I would say go for it. Hosanna, can you find me a Sharpie, please? Okay, I have covered all of these. I've written lasagna on top of all of them so that I know what it is. And I'm going to let these completely cool before I put them in the freezer. And I'm done. It's wonderful. It didn't take too long, and now I've got 3 meals for my family. So I'm going to leave the Daily Connoisseur's link below, and I'll link it straight up to her lasagna video so that you can find it. Give it a shot. It really is a great recipe. I can't say enough about it. So thank you for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, all of that stuff, and I can't wait to see you next time. Thanks.